Hello YouTubers, my name is Flo. Today I will attempt an 8-minute plus breath hold and speak about how I train and what's important in the freediving discipline of static apnea. The most important stretching is what we call the full-on stretching, which is basically inhaling as much air as you can and taking stretching pauses. While you do this, your lungs are pressing slightly on your head and disturbing the blood flow. Okay, so you're going to start feeling a little bit dizzy. The whole point is to get rid of this dizziness feeling. So basically we're training the heart to get used to pressure changes and regulate the blood flow faster. So when I'm stretching now, I'm inhaling air and I'm pushing the air in the down part of my lungs, pushing my abdominal muscle forward for a few seconds, and then I'm doing the same with my upper muscle, so I'm pulling the air as high as I can in my chest for a few seconds, and so on and so on. I'm using a spirometer. There's a machine which calculates the size of the lungs, so we can see that I have approximately a 9-liter lungs capacity, so a little bit more than a liter of air per minute of breath hold, basically. The third part of the preparation is the heart rate. So to do a good breath hold, you need a low heart rate. So you need to be relaxed and not too stressed. If you see that before your attempt your heart rate is at 70, 80, 90 BPM, you can avoid the training session for the day. There's no way you're going to make a good breath hold. Now we enter the water. So it's very important that before you start any warm-ups, if you do some, that you take a small nap, 5 to 10 minutes, where you're going to breathe perfectly normally. So after your nap, it's time to do your breathe up. The breathe up is a special technique you can learn in any freediving school, which will allow you to hold your breath much longer and much easier. Basically, I'm going to inhale 5 seconds in, full lungs, and I'm going to exhale 5 to 10 seconds out, almost empty lung. And I'm going to do this for several minutes. I'm doing a technique which is called packing, which is basically swallowing air inside my lungs, basically increasing the amount of air the lungs can contain. However, it's also a technique which destroys relaxation, so you have to be very careful when you use it, and then you need to do a lot of training to be able to use it properly. So now I'm going in the water, holding my breath. The first minute is very easy. I feel a little bit dizzy because my lungs are pressing on my head and disturbing the blood flow. So it's a little bit like being drunk. It's a very nice feeling, and it goes away very quickly after 30 seconds to a minute. So the second minute is very easy. I'm going to focus on muscle relaxation. So I'm going to take one muscle at a time, starting from head to toes. I'm going to focus on relaxing this muscle as much as I can. I start with my neck and my facial muscles. When they relax, I will go through my shoulders, my arms, my hands, all the way to my fingers. Then I will focus on my lower back and my belly, my chest, and I will relax as much as possible, and so on. From 3 to 6 minutes, it takes a little bit of time to learn how to do this. 1 to 3 is very easy. In 1 hour, anyone can learn to hold their breath for 3 minutes in any freediving school. 3 to 6 minutes is a little bit more complicated. It requires a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more training. The third minute is also quite easy. Now that all my muscles are very loose and relaxed, I'm gonna try to relax my mind. Okay? So there's many techniques to relax the mind. It's very similar to yoga and meditation. For my practice, I simply try to find happy places, or think about a person I really like, or think about an activity I really like to do, a landscape I really like to see, any of those sort of things. Okay, so during that 30 minutes, I'm basically relaxing my spirit or my mind, okay, and trying to tell myself, to convince myself that I don't want to breathe, that everything is fine, and this static apnea feels extremely comfortable. The fourth minute is where things get a little bit more complicated. So I start to have a slight urge to breathe during the fourth minute. Basically, the urge to breathe is caused by the accumulation of CO2 inside my blood. The oxygen that I put in my lungs is being used by all my muscles and organs and tissues and turned into CO2, and the CO2 is basically toxic at a certain point. So I start to feel that I want to breathe, and basically during the fourth minute I try to get used to it. Okay, I try to talk to myself and tell myself, this is not so bad, this is not so bad. Okay? At the end of the fourth minute, I'm confident with myself that the urge to breathe is mild, and I'm ready to go much more. Now I'm going to start the fifth minute, and the fifth minute is a difficult one because it's when the contractions start. The contraction is basically when your body is asking you how to breathe. It's a breathing reflex, and all your torso area, your diaphragm, your intercostal are going to start tensing up. The problem with this part of the dive is every time your diaphragm contracts, you're losing a lot of oxygen. Okay, so you need a really good control in that part. Okay, and that comes from training, mostly CO2 table training. So during this minute, this fifth minute, I'm having contraction, and I'm just focusing on controlling my intercostal and controlling my diaphragm to have as less contraction as possible, and when I have them, make them as small as possible. Now we're entering the 6 minutes, and 6 minutes to 7 minutes is a very complicated part. There's a lot of freedivers who struggle during that part. First of all, the contractions are getting a little bit more uncomfortable. They're getting bigger and bigger. Okay? So the CO2 tolerance that you need to have to be comfortable with that part requires much more training. This training is actually simple. It's mostly doing more CO2 table. now I'm entering the 7th minute, things are getting complicated, which means my contractions are very big, and each time they're happening, I lose a lot of oxygen. So I need to use a technique with my tongue to block the contraction in order to save oxygen, which is very useful. Now it's really about training, so you can't really achieve that level only from technique. It's mostly repetitive dives which are going to allow you to reach that level. For my part, I do, for example, 5 to 10, 6 to 7 minute breath hold with very little rest in between each hold. Now I just passed the 8 minutes mark and things are getting very complicated. Obviously, my personal best is 1 minute ahead, so I'm getting very hypoxic. Okay, so this is when I stop thinking about relaxation. I open my eyes, I try to focus in staying awake. I'm going to focus on the bottom of the pool, or in that case, I'm going to focus on the sandy bottom. Okay, and my coach is going to start waking me up. A really good way to know when it's time to come up is to avoid shoulder contractions. So when your shoulders are moving up from the contractions, you shouldn't continue the dive and you should come up and do your recovery breath. So now it's 8:30. The last 30 seconds my contractions were moving my shoulders. They were big enough to move my upper body. So I'm coming up and I'm doing what we call a recovery breath. Extremely important for safety. So you need to inhale, block for a few seconds and exhale. And you do this 3-4 times to reabsorb oxygen as fast as you possibly can.